Hello friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Hope you're doing well. A few of you were worried because Drakkar Noir was off the shelf for a little bit and Koros was up there, but no worries, Drakkar Noir is back with a couple friends. I actually took it down and wore it for a couple days, but it's back. But that's not what we're talking about today. No, today we're talking about a fragrance that I bought for just under $16. Technically it was $15.99 from Joma Shop. It was one of those purchases where you're buying other things and you see it while you're looking through the store and it's so cheap you just think to yourself, well, even if it sucks, I'm not even out 20 bucks, so throw it in there. That's exactly how I came to get this one. It is from Maison Alhambra, which is the other reason I got it, because they have a lot of solid fragrances, and it's called Expose Intense, which is an interesting name choice. Expose. Maybe not. But yeah, I got this one in, and I'll tell you, I opened this up, I sprayed it on, and I was completely shocked because it was nothing at all what I expected it to be. And we'll get into that in just a moment. I do have this linked in the description below. Feel free to check it out down there. Again, $15.99 is what I paid at Joma Shop, which is frankly an awesome price. Triple Traders has this also, but it's like double the cost. So I would say Joma Shop is the better play here. That being said, you shop at Triple Traders, use the code GENTS for 10% off your order. And here are a bunch of other codes that you can use at other websites to save some money. Now we're gonna get into this fragrance and how it smells in just a second, but let's go ahead first and do a cursory glance at the presentation. So here we have the front of the box. It looks like a freakish eye, like a cursed eye. Yeah, you got the name of the house, name of the fragrance, size and concentration on the front there. 100 ml eau de parfum, Maison Alhambra up top. On the back, you got that sticker of authenticity. You gotta have it. You also have the ingredient information. And on the bottom, you have your badge code and your barcode. And the badge code is printed in black ink on the black box, so a little bit difficult to see. And here we've got the bottle for Expose Intense. It doesn't look too bad, but it is a fingerprint magnet. On top it says Maison Alhambra and a little sticker on the bottom. The cap does click snugly into place. All right, let's go ahead and blast a couple sprays here. Let's do it. There we go. So this is a fragrance I didn't even bother to check anything on before I bought it. This is like the blindest of blind buys. I didn't even know it existed until I was looking through Joma Shop's website. This is what I knew about the fragrance. It's from Maison Alhambra, which is part of Lataffa, which means it's a clone. So I knew that much, and I knew it was cheap, and I knew it was called Expose Intense. There you go. That's what I knew. Now, I also didn't even bother to look this up before I opened it and sprayed it on for the first time. I only looked it up afterwards because I was like, oh my God, I'm pretty sure I know what this is. It's really similar to something, but I want to see if there's any other info out there. So that's when I found it on Triple Traders. And they had the note breakdown on there, and they said that it was a clone of this Mont Blanc Legend Intense, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, the bottles have some similarities there. I mean, can't really deny that. You know, a lot of these clone houses, Maison Alhambra especially, have made it a bit of a thing to go ahead and just copy the full presentation. And it's named Expose Intense, Legend Intense. Yeah, that could be it. Color scheme's pretty similar too. Even the caps, the top there, you know, you stretch your mind a little bit, kind of similar as well. So I was thinking, okay, it's Legend Intense, which frankly would be pretty cool because Legend Intense was for a lot of people the best Mont Blanc Legend, and it's discontinued. Difficult to find. And when you look up the note breakdown, at least that Triple Traders has for Expose Intense, so yeah, you look at the name, the presentation, the notes, everything, Legend Intense is what it's looking like. Which Legend Intense, because of its discontinuation, is going for like $200 to $250 on eBay. So it would make sense to have an alternative to this one. To be fair though, Legend Intense is not what I thought of the first time I smelled Expose Intense, when I got the very first whiff from this one. So if Expose Intense, in spite of what's online about it and the looks and everything, the name, all that stuff, if it doesn't smell as close to Legend Intense, especially off the top, what does it smell like? Well, it smells like a fragrance I'm really familiar with, a fragrance that I love, actually, and it hit me the second I sprayed this on. The second it hit my skin and I caught a whiff, I was like, oh, that is really close, I feel like, to something else. And I did some contrasting and comparing, and yes, I think that this is actually much closer to Jean Paul Gaultier's Le Male de Parfum. I don't know. Even now, I have each one of these on tester strips. It is far, far closer to the Jean Paul Gaultier than it is the Mont Blanc, far closer. So what are the differences? Well, Legend Intense is much fruitier than Expose Intense, and that is immediately apparent. Expose Intense opens up very similarly to the Jean Paul Gaultier. So you're gonna get that sort of dusty warmth and sweetness, that cardamom tinged slight powderiness. You get that here, just like in the Jean Paul Gaultier, whereas Legend Intense opens up with a big burst of apple and pineapple. You also get that sort of vanilla sweetness coming out in Expose Intense, like you do in the Jean Paul Gaultier. And I should mention, there's also bergamot with those other fruits that I just mentioned in Legend Intense as well. So it's a noticeable difference. Only one of these three has a big fruity opening, and it's this one. These two open up in a much closer realm. So essentially, this one, Expose Intense, it opens up a little bit more on the Jean Paul Gaultier side, actually quite similar. And then as it dries down, it gets a little bit closer to how Legend Intense smells in the dry down, because this one, Expose Intense, I know we're a lot of intenses and Le Parfums and everything right here, but Expose Intense takes on more of a tonka feel, a good amount of tonka. And actually that kind of powdery feeling that you get in the Jean Paul Gaultier, that is not really found in Expose Intense when you hit the dry down. So what you have here is a really interesting clone that is also at the same time almost its own thing. Whoa, hey guys. This is an update from way in the future. I actually shot the video for Expose Intense like 3 weeks ago or something. So I just wanted to do a quick update here because things have changed slightly with this one, enough so that I want to do this. So Expose Intense in the opening, it's obviously been sitting on my shelf for a while. It's changed a little bit. It's a lot fresher slash sweeter off the top, but still yet when I went and compared it side by side with Legend Intense again, they're still really, really different. Legend Intense is much fresher, much sweeter with the fruitiness off the top than Expose Intense is. So I still stand by what I said before, that if this is supposed to be a direct clone of Legend Intense, it's really not a good one, just as far as like getting that scent profile nailed down. Expose Intense still has more of that kind of vanilla undertone to it, and it does remind me a bit of Le Male de Parfum as it dries down, which is what I'd said before. But I will say that in the opening now, it really doesn't remind me much of Le Male de Parfum, not a huge amount. As I said, it's a bit fresher than when I first got it in and I was wearing it initially. That has switched up, but it's still not even close to Legend Intense. So at best, to me, this would be something like a weird twist fragrance of like Legend Intense and Le Male de Parfum and God knows what else. But even with all that, Expose Intense does smell really nice. So I mean, that's a positive. But I just wanted to quickly shoot this little update. I thought about doing a whole new review, but a lot of what I said still stands exactly as it is. It's just when you let this kind of sit and oxidize, as some people would say, or macerate, or marinate, or just age. If you look online, you'll see a million different people saying it different ways, but it means the same thing. It does switch up. The opening does open up a bit more, but it still is not this. So I wanted to go ahead and shoot this quick update, which really ends up just sounding like I'm saying more of what I said before. But yeah, just in case there was like any possibility that somebody out there might think, well, you know, if you give it a little time, it'll get way close to Legend Intense and then it's pretty much the same thing. That would be awesome. That would be great, because this possibly is the best Legend that's come out, and now it's really expensive, but it's just not the case that this truly is an alternative to this. It actually ends up smelling like Le Male de Parfum with less powder and more vanilla than it does Legend Intense when you hit the dry down. So that's it, back to me in the past. Take it away, me. So you could kind of like put it here in between these two. And for a split second, as I was testing Expose Intense over the past couple of days, I thought, well, maybe it's this one, Legend Night, which originally I hadn't even bothered to compare with Expose Intense. But when you do these side by side, they are pretty different. So I wouldn't say that Expose Intense is a replacement or a clone of Legend Night. Essentially, it opens up closer to this guy, and then as it dries down, while still keeping some of the aspects of this fragrance, it takes on more of Legend Intense. So that's how Expose Intense comes across to me. Only 16 bucks. In the opening, I was sure right away, this is a Le Male de Parfum, or if we're being more proper, Le Male de Parfum clone. But then as it dried down and began to take on more tonka and not quite as much vanilla, and it lost some of that powderiness, Legend Intense comes out and kind of mixes with this. So it's like both of these once you work through the mid. For 16 bucks, Expose Intense is really good. Even spraying it on right now. I mean, the atomizer is not great, but frankly, most clone fragrance houses don't have great atomizers. And then spraying on Legend Intense and a little JPG. It's much closer to this in the opening, yeah. It's just those fruits are completely lacking in this one off the top as compared to this guy over here. So there is Expose Intense, a weird kind of amalgamation of things put together. And truth be told, I'm not even sure if they were going for like this kind of fusion. That's just how it smells to me. Looking at the bottles, again, it looks more like they're just trying to do a one-to-one, which would make sense because this being discontinued, going for $250, and a lot of people would say, as I said at the beginning of the video, is the best Legend that has ever come out, and unfortunately it's discontinued. It would make sense to have an alternative for that you can pick up for $16. That would be awesome. So maybe they were trying to go for this, but just couldn't nail the opening, and it led to this Frankensteinian thing we have here that somehow still smells really good. Nice. In terms of seasons, pretty much year round, but if you're being specific, probably spring, fall, daytime or nighttime, either one. Performance seems to be right around the average range. It's not bad, but it's not great either. Part of that could be the atomizer. The atomizer is kind of weak and I didn't really go heavy with the sprays, and I have only worn it a few times, so keep that in mind. And projection is about in line there also, just kind of middling, average, it's fine. It's not bad. It's a little bit weaker than the Jean Paul Gaultier, I'll say that much. For 16 bucks, great little fragrance to throw in your cart. And even if you don't like it, you're not even out 20 bucks. So there we go, Expose Intense. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Stay safe out there. I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later.